Good afternoon, everybody. Special greetings to grade 12 business studies learners. And of course, special greetings to grade 12 business studies teachers and everybody, all stakeholders that take part in ensuring that we have grade 12 learners ready for the examination this year. It's me again, Medupi Shadrach Mui from the Department of Education, to come and share and also to come and give tips in as far as Business Studies Paper 2 is concerned. I'm going to take you through the outline of my presentation. I will focus on the documents that I actually used in preparing this presentation, the scope, the date and the structure of the paper, commonly asked questions and diagnostic report thereof, approach to essay writing, and conclusion. And let me just also, before I carry on with the rest of my presentation, and congratulate the grade 12 learners for writing. I've got no doubt you wrote well yesterday, paper 1, and all the information that was given to you previously came in handy to assist you in preparing for that examination that you set for yesterday. And I wish you all the best, and we just have to wait and see how you really performed. And now I'm preparing you for paper 2, and you'll have to even do much better, because now you've learned your lessons for paper 1. Now you are improving for paper 2. Remember, for your overall results, the two papers are going to be joined together to give you a final result for business studies. All right, let's look at the first document that I actually referred to in preparing this. The CAPS, amended CAPS document, which was implemented as of 2021. This is our guiding document in our subject. 2021 examination guidelines. The guidelines are very important, because even the examiner, when he or she sits down to come up with a paper, reference to the examination guidelines is what the examiner would do. So I also look at the examination guideline when I was preparing this lesson presentation. Then amended notes. Remember, you've got notes that were provided to you by the Department of Education, and those notes were amended. So take into account the amendments, and I also took into account the amendments when I was preparing this presentation. I looked at 2021 November and May-June NSC papers, 2022 May-June NSC paper, 2022 June exam, and trial or prep exam papers from our province, and of course trial or prep exam papers from other provinces. That will also help a lot. Let's look at the scope. The scope is all the topics that are relevant as per 2021 examination guideline, because now we are talking of paper 2. The focus should be on two broad topics. The first broad topic is business ventures. What are the topics that fall under business ventures? Management and leadership, investment securities or opportunities, investment insurance, forms of ownership, with focus on how they can contribute to the success or failure of a business, and presentation and data response. All these subtopics, they form part of this broad topic, which is business ventures. So without any doubt, your paper 2 question paper is going to cover all these subtopics. And then the other broad topic that forms part of paper 2 is business roles. What do you have under business roles? You have the following subtopics. You've got ethics and professionalism, creative thinking and problem solving, social responsibility and corporate citizenship, corporate social responsibility, or corporate social investment. In brief, you can say CSR and CSI. You also have got human rights, inclusivity and environmental issues. And lastly, you've got team performance assessment and conflict management. All these subtopics, they form part of business roles. So the two broad topics, which is your business ventures and business roles, they form part of the content that you are going to be assessed on for paper 2. So this is broadly the scope. The scope is pretty what you know, is the topics that you must now focus on when you prepare yourself for this paper. Let's look at the date and the structure. You'll be sitting for this paper on the 29th of November. And unfortunately or fortunately again, like paper 1, this is going to be an afternoon paper. You're going to write at 1400 hours. And unless you've got a paper that you'll be writing in the morning, if you don't have a paper to write in the morning, you've got ample time to do those finishing touches, you know, before you sit for the paper in the afternoon. And again, if you also write in the morning, you still have got enough time right now to plan properly and carefully for the paper that you'll be writing in the morning, and of course, business studies paper 2 in the afternoon. So the fact that you are writing in the afternoon should not be an excuse that you are likely not to do well because you are writing in the afternoon. Whether you are writing in the morning or in the afternoon, you must still prepare and do as expected. So you are writing on the 29th in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. Let's look at the structure. The structure is pretty the same like in paper 1. The paper is going to be divided into 3 sections. Section A, which is made up of a compulsory kind of questions, making multiple choice, for example, for 10 marks. Choose the correct word, 10 marks. Match the columns, another 10 marks, totaling to 30 marks. So this is going to be a compulsory question for 30 marks. And don't spend more than 30 minutes in this question. Or you can even spend at most 20 minutes on this section. And it covers mostly your level 1 and level 2 questions. And then section B, that's where you have a choice to make. You'll be provided with 3 questions and expected to choose 2 from the 3. Question 2, for example, it will be based on business ventures. Question 3, it will be business roles. Question 4, it will be a combination or normally called miscellaneous. Each question will carry 40 marks. And because you have to choose 2, you are fighting for 80 marks. And you'll also have direct questions and also questions making use of scenarios. So scenario questions are also prevalent in this section, and cognitive levels covered there is level 1 to level 6. Remember, you've got to choose 2 from the 3. And then section C, it's essays, mainly your essay questions, and you'll get 2 essays and expected to choose 1 from the 2. Question 5, which is going to be the first essay, is going to be based on business ventures. Now the examiner will decide on any of the subtopics there to come up with a question from business ventures. Sometimes they even combine your subtopics to make it one question. And then question 6, which is the last question, your essay, it will be on business roles. And again, on business roles, you've got so many subtopics that form part of business roles. The examiner will also decide on any subtopic or a combination of those subtopics to come up with an essay. Each essay carries 40 marks. Don't spend more than 30 minutes on that essay. And essay mostly cover level 3 to level 6 cognitive levels. And the total for the paper is 150 marks, and you are given 120 minutes, meaning you've got 2 hours to finish writing that paper. So that's the structure, and that is the scope, and in fact that is actually the date and the structure, which are still the same. Let's now go straight to the questions. the commonly asked questions, and diagnostic report thereof. The very first broad topic that we are going to focus on is business venture, and let's take a look at the subtopic leadership and management. The content there is leadership styles. This question was there in the 2022 May-June NSC paper. The question was on the impact. Discuss the impact of the democratic leadership style on businesses. Remember, the word impact is so commonly used in our paper. I mean, I was looking at paper 1, for example, that you set for yesterday. The word impact, every question except question 4, there was a question on impact. There was a question on impact in question 2. In question 3, there's a question on impact. Even your essays, you had 2 essays there. Each essay, there was also impact. Now, you can't underestimate this verb, impact. It's so important that you understand the moment the word impact is used, what is expected of you. The impact, you must always think of positives and negatives, or advantages and disadvantages. Now, what are the misconceptions and errors commonly committed by candidates when it comes to a question such as this? Candidates tend to explain the leadership style instead of showing the impact. The question here, it wants you to discuss the impact. So you are not expected to tell us what democratic leadership style is all about, but you must come up with the impact, how it will either positively or negatively impact on the business. Some of the responses that we are actually expecting will include, amongst others, the following. Positive impact of this democratic leadership style on business will, for example, include response such as the leaders allows the employees to participate in the decision-making process. That is a positive impact, because employees now, they will feel part of the business. They are allowed to participate in the decision-making process. Secondly, the positive impact is that, you know, when a leader uses this democratic leadership style, there is a two-way communication, and it ensures that group commitment is there to final decisions. Again, complex decisions can be made with inputs from specialist or skilled workers. It means you'll always have inputs because the leader is so democratic. You know, it allows inputs from employees, or even from skilled workers, or even from specialists. So that's the positive impact of this leadership style. Let's look at the negative impact or the disadvantage. Incorrect decisions may be made if the staff is inexperienced or not fully skilled. If the leader is democratic and the staff is inexperienced, wrong decisions may be taken. Decision making may also be time consuming because stakeholders have to be consulted. Remember, the leader wants to wants input from everybody. This may delay decision making because now the leader wants to sort of consult. And this leadership style is not effective in times of crisis. You know, when you need to make a decision, as in like now, you don't have time to consult. But if you are democratic, you are going to take time before you come to a decision. So these are some of the negative impact of this democratic leadership style. So you now know what to do when you come across a question like this, and the examiner may pick on any leadership style. I just decided to pick on this one just to show you what is expected. So prepare yourself on the impact on any leadership style, and not only impact. The examiner may also look at the application. When can the leadership style best be applied? So also look at that content when it comes to leadership and management. Let's look at also this one, still under leadership and management. This is a commonly asked question. I mean, it was there in the 2021 May, June, and also right now in our prep exam from the Free State, we had this question on personal attitude, the role of personal attitude in successful leadership. This question has been there, and it pains me when learners or candidates do not do well because it has been there. And please take note that this question is likely to be there. What are the misconceptions and errors normally committed by candidates or learners here? Candidates will definitely, most of the time, do not have content. They have poor content knowledge. They don't have content on this aspect, or sometimes they focus on the leadership style instead of the personal attitude. Remember, the question says the role of personal attitude in successful leadership. The responses that we are expecting will include, amongst others, the following. A leader's good or bad attitude can influence the success or failure of a business. I mean, you all know where the moment you've got an attitude that is actually bad, things are actually likely to go, bad also. So a leader's good attitude will also influence the success of the business. Leaders must know their strengths and weaknesses to apply their leadership styles effectively. Great leaders understand that the right attitude will set the right atmosphere. Leaders' attitude may influence employees' or teams' thoughts or even behavior. The leader should model the behavior that they want to see in their team members. These are some of the responses that we are expecting. But remember, the key word there is attitude, and how attitude can influence the success in the business. So watch out for a question such as this one under leadership and management. Let's now move to another subtopic, which is data presentation and data response. This question was there in the prep from Eastern Cape. Explain factors that must be considered by the presenter while presenting business information. The common question. Misconceptions and errors. Candidates' response, normally they are based on how to handle feedback after rather than during a presentation as required by the question. Sometimes also candidates' responses are inappropriately based on factors to be considered when preparing for a business. The examiner will always play around the words during, while, before, after, and so on. So watch out for a question such as this one and read the question carefully and understand it, and make sure that when you answer, you answer it appropriately and correctly. This one was about factors that the presenter should consider while presenting, during the presentation. Responses, some of the responses we are expecting will include, amongst others, like the presenter is expected to stand in a good position, upright, where the audience can clearly see the presenter or the presentation. The presenter should maintain eye contact with the audience. The presenter should be audible, louder, clear to all listeners or the audience. The presenter should maintain eye contact with the audience. So these are some of the responses, and you can hear all these are responses for the presenter while presenting, not before. So watch out for a question such as this one. Let's move to another subtopic, forms of ownership. This is also a common kind of a question. It was there in the 2022 May, June, and also from the prep from KZN. Explain the difference between limited liability and unlimited liability. I mean, this is grade 10 content, but you still find grade 12 learners struggling to strike the difference between the two. And this question normally carries marks. You'll find that if it is in an essay, section C, it will carry about 6 to even 8 marks. In section B, normally it carries, say, 4 marks at most. limited liability and unlimited liability. Misconceptions: candidates confuse the two, or sometimes they even provide vague responses. Make sure that you provide relevant and correct responses. For example, limited liability, what does it mean? Losses of a business are limited to the amount that the owner invested in the business. On the other side, unlimited liability, the liability of the owner of the business to pay debts or claims is not limited. You see, it is not limited to the business only. It goes further as far as personal assets and so on. So get the difference right and answer appropriately and correctly when you come across a question such as this one. Still on forms of ownership, another commonly asked question, and candidates do not do well on this question, and it always also carries a lot of marks: success or failure factors. It was there in the Gauteng prep exam. Explain how taxation could contribute to the success and or failure of partnership. Here, the examiner may choose any form of ownership, may also pick on any factor. In this instance, we are making use only of taxation as a factor. How can it contribute to the success of partnership? Misconceptions and errors. Candidates' responses are normally based on the characteristics of a form of ownership instead of explaining how the characteristic becomes an advantage or a disadvantage. Make sure that when you answer this question, you prove to the marker beyond reasonable doubt that this will definitely contribute towards the success of this form of ownership or failure of this form of ownership. Now let's look at this one. It is about taxation. The partnership does not pay income tax. We all know that. Only the partners in their personal capacities pay tax. So because partnership as a business does not pay tax, this can lead to the success of a business because there is no burden of paying tax on the side of the business. It can lead to the success of this business. And you can hear it convinces that this will definitely contribute towards the success of a business. But when you go to failure, on the other side, high earning partners pay more tax, which may discourage other partners from joining the partnership. Remember, we are saying the business does not pay tax, but the partners, they pay on their personal capacities. Now, the more you earn, the more you pay. So those partners who are part of partnership, because they are going to pay tax on their personal capacities, if they earn more and they've got to pay more tax, it will sort of discourage even other partners from joining. So this may also contribute towards the failure of this form of ownership, which is partnership. So the examiner may pick on any form of ownership, either sole proprietorship, either public company, either partnership, and also choose on any factor. Make sure that you answer accordingly and you answer appropriately. Go to your notes and get ready for content such as this one. And you can get this content either in section B or even section C, but it normally carries a lot of marks. Now, under investment opportunities, another common question on the functions of the Johannesburg Security Exchange. Misconceptions and errors. Candidates provide vague and incomplete responses. It was even there in the 2021 November, and also right now in the 2022 May, June. This question was there. Responses that we are expecting from you when you answer a question such as this will include, amongst others, the following. The Johannesburg Security Exchange, it serves as a barometer or indicator of economic conditions in South Africa. It keeps investors informed by publishing share prices daily. It raises primary capital by encouraging new investments in listed companies. So these are some of the responses that we are expecting from you. You've got this content in your notes. Get ready and don't make a mistake of not getting this question right when you come across it when you sit for paper 2 examination. And on investments, now let's pay attention to insurance. The calculation of underinsurance. You know, there's always calculation of underinsurance, and there's also calculation of interest or even compound interest. But we normally expect the calculation of compound interest and simple interest to be more challenging than the calculation of, for example, underinsurance. But we get so disappointed that candidates cannot really take advantage and get the calculation when they are expected to do to calculate underinsurance right. And it's so simple. It's so simple. Let me take you through this. What are the misconceptions? Candidates fail to identify because most of the time you are provided with a scenario with figures, and you are expected to make use of the figures to calculate show your calculations and calculate either the money that the business will be expected to pay in the case of underinsurance. Now, let's look at this example. Bophelo Traders bought stock worth 600,000, but they insured it for 400,000. BT lost stock to the value of 90,000 due to damage caused by heavy storms. The question would come, name the insurance clause that is applicable in the scenario above. The correct answer there is average clause. That is average clause. And then calculate the amount that BT will receive as compensation from the insurer. Show all calculations. You are normally given even the formula. In fact, the formula, you must know the formula. It's so simple and straightforward. The formula, if you write it, you can even get a mark for writing the correct formula. The formula goes like the insured amount divided by the market value, and then you multiply that by the loss or the damage. In this instance, the insured, this was insured for 400,000 rands, and the value was 600,000. So it's 400,000 divided by 600,000 multiplied by the damage or the loss, which is 90,000 rand. The answer there is 60,000 rand. Now, can you see that because of underinsurance, this business underinsured the stock because the value of the stock was 600,000, but it was insured for 400,000. Because of that, the damage was 90,000, but the insurance will only pay 60,000 rands instead of 90,000 rands because the business underinsured its stock. So when you come across a question such as this one, please have those answers correct and get those marks. It's pretty easy to get this question right. Still on insurance, also very important and also common, the principles of insurance. It was there in the 2021 May, June, and even right now in the KZN prep examination. You are normally provided with a scenario. Depends on how the examiner will ask the question. Sometimes you'll be provided with a scenario, or sometimes you'll be asked a direct question either to discuss the principles of insurance. But in this instance, if you are provided with a scenario, you are expected to identify the principles from the scenario. For example, Tilda Trading, TT, is known for selling quality products to various customers. The management of Tilda Trading insured their business against fire and theft. TT disclosed everything that may affect the extent of the risk. Here is the question. Identify 2 principles of insurance applicable to TT. Motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. The misconceptions and errors, candidates, most of the time, they fail to identify the principles from the scenario, and they sometimes also have poor content knowledge. In this instance, the first principle there is indemnification or indemnity. What is the motivation? The management of Tilda ensure the business against fire and theft. And the second principle is utmost good faith. What is the motivation? TT disclosed everything that may affect the extent of their risk. So get the principles right, study, go to your notes and prepare yourself. When you come across a question, whether it's asked in the form of a scenario or it's a straightforward kind of a question, you are answering it correctly and appropriately. On investment, still on insurance, a common kind of a question on the advantages of insurance for business. It was there in the 2021 May-June paper. Even right now, FS prep, our prep, even the KZN prep, this question was there. Misconceptions, candidates, they most of the time repeat facts on the advantages of insurance, and sometimes they also provide responses based on the meaning of reinstatement and indemnification. The responses that we are expecting from you will include amongst the following. Insurance transfers the risks from business or the insured to an insurance company. However, this is subject to terms and conditions caused by the natural disaster such as floods or storms or damage and so on. Insurance protects business against losses due to death, for example, of a debtor. So, and the other mistake or misconception that candidates make, they will always use the word protect. But if you don't support whatever you are saying, the business gets protected against, you will not get your marks. You must actually substantiate and support your statement. If you say it protects businesses against what? Against dishonest employees. Then you get your full 2 marks for that. So get it right and make sure that you answer appropriately. And then let's move to business roles now. Creative thinking and problem solving, a common kind of a question on the benefits of creative thinking. Benefits or advantages of creative thinking. Outline the benefits of creative thinking in the workplace. It was there in the 2020 May-June. Misconceptions and errors. Candidates confuse this question with the benefits of diversity in the workplace. Don't make such a mistake, because the question is about benefits of creative thinking, not benefits of diversity. Responses that we are expecting will include, amongst others, the following. Creative thinking, you get to get better or unique or unconventional ideas, solutions. They are generated. This is a benefit. It may give the business a competitive advantage if unusual or unique solutions or ideas or strategies are implemented. Complex business problems may be solved. Productivity increases as management or employees may quickly generate multiple ideas, which utilizes time and money more effectively. So these are the benefits, they are the advantages, some of the advantages of creative thinking in the workplace. Make sure you answer it accordingly and appropriately. Ethics and professionalism. This question was there right now, 2020 May-June, from the Northwest Prep, Eastern Cape Prep, and KZN Prep. You can see it was common. It was on the application of King Code principle. The examiner may choose any principle. For the purpose of my presentation, I focused on the principle of accountability. Explain how businesses can apply the King Code principle of accountability to improve their ethical business practices. The misconception, candidates tend to explain the principle instead of showing how it could be applied. Make sure that you answer it accordingly and appropriately. Responses that we are expecting will include, amongst others, there must be regular communication between the management and the stakeholders like shareholders. Companies should appoint internal and external auditors to audit financial statements. You know, if a company does this, it is actually applying this principle. So go to your notes, get the content right, and answer this question accordingly when you come across it in the paper. Still on ethics and professionalism, also common. The examiner may focus on unprofessional business practice or unethical business practice. But I focused here on the unprofessional business practice. It was there in the Mpumalanga prep exam. Explain how abuse of work time poses challenges to business. It's very important to understand the question, how it poses a challenge to the business. The misconception, candidates tend to explain the unprofessional business practice instead of showing how it poses a challenge to the business. Responses that we are expecting from you will include the following, amongst others. It may result in many employees often abusing work time. So you see, the response, it shows how this poses a challenge. Abuse of work time could result in losing customers or not meeting the deadline or conflict amongst workers. Wasting time costs business money and affects productivity. Abuse of work time results in a decline in profits, which could damage the financial wealth of the business. So answer it in this manner and you'll get your full marks for the question. Make sure that you don't make a mistake when you come across a question such as this one. Still on ethics and professionalism, unethical business practice. It was there in the May-June 2022 Northwest, even in our prep, Free State prep exam. Suggest ways in which business could deal with taxation or tax evasion as a type of unethical business practice. So how business can deal. The examiner may select any unethical business practice, and you'll definitely have to come up with practical ways for business to deal with that practice. Misconceptions, candidates tend to explain the unethical business practice instead of suggesting how to deal with it. For example, in the case of this one, because it's about tax evasion, businesses are expected to disclose all sources of income for tax purposes. This is how it can deal with this unethical business practice. They must disclose. Business must keep abreast with the latest SARS regulations and tax laws. The business must have that have evaded tax should apply for amnesty and declare their income. These are some of the responses that are expected when you come across a question such as this one. Now, this one, I want you to listen carefully. It's business roles, and it is based on CSR and CSI. I looked at the previous papers. What I discovered was that there was a question on this CSR, CSI. And the common thing, or can I say the funny thing, or something that you must take note of, is that question 6, we all know it's an essay. Question 6 for 2022 May-June, it was based on this content. Free State, question 6, the prep, it was this question. KZN, prep, it was this question. Mpumalanga, it was CSR, CSI, even Western Cape. So you can see quite a number of provinces, they decided to make an essay on this question. So watch the space. Take note of this question because it is appearing in most of the provinces' papers. And the manner in which I've asked it, I've asked it in a manner if it was asked in section B. Discuss the impact of CSR on the business. The misconception, candidates tend to focus on the impact of CSR on businesses with communities. You know, you must always read the question carefully, because the examiner may ask you to discuss the impact on communities or on business. So make sure that you study it carefully and you answer it appropriately. Responses that we are expecting, amongst others, because it's the impact. Remember, positives and negatives. Businesses may have a competitive advantage resulting in good publicity. That's the positive impact of CSR on business. The negative impact, detailed reports must be drawn up, which may be time consuming. This is the negative impact of CSR on business. So go through your notes, prepare yourself on this content, and who knows, if it comes, make sure that you take advantage, because we've talked about it. Still on business roles, human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues. Cultural rights, there on 2021 November, 2022 May, June, and Western Cape, recommend ways in which businesses could promote the cultural rights in the workplace. How can business promote cultural rights? The misconception and errors, candidates provide incorrect responses, such as allow employees to practice their culture in the workplace. It persists, you know, it's common. We are expecting responses such as employees should be trained on cultural tolerance. This is how the business can promote cultural rights in the workplace. The business should encourage employees to participate in cultural activities. The business should provide the environment in which employees are free to use their own language when interacting with others during their free time. You know, you must qualify this statement and make sure that you write it accordingly. Otherwise, you will tend to forfeit marks if you don't qualify it. The business should allow employees to provide solutions to challenges from their own cultural perspectives. That's some of the ways in which the business could promote cultural rights in the workplace. Still on human rights and inclusivity and environmental issues. This one is also common. It was there on the Gauteng Prep. Explain the role of health and safety representatives in promoting the workplace environment. Misconceptions? Candidates confuse the role of the health and safety representatives with responsibilities of employees in promoting human health in the workplace. Responses that we are expecting will include, amongst others, work together with the employer to investigate any accidents, complaints from the workers concerning health and safety in the workplace. Because you are talking about representatives, you know. Ensure that all equipment that is necessary to perform the work is provided or maintained regularly. Ensure that workers' health and safety is not endangered by hazard resulting from production or material, and so on. Make sure that you answer this question accordingly when you come across it. Still on human rights, inclusivity, and environmental issues. It was there on the 2022 May, June. Strategies businesses may use to protect the environment and human health in the workplace. Misconceptions? Candidates confuse this question with well-being of employees. Make sure that you don't make that mistake. Responses that we are expecting will include others, amongst others, the following. Laws and regulations should be adhered to so that profits are not generated at the expense of the environment. Water for human consumption should be tested before it is used. Educate employees about the hygiene issues. Encourage employees to do regular health checks. These are some of the responses that we are expecting. Make sure that content, when you come across questions based on this content, you answer accordingly and you do your best. I've just touched on some of the questions, not all, and because of time, I cannot go through all the content. But what I've touched on are questions that are commonly asked. Now let's look at essays, for example, quickly. You know that with essays, you are expected to follow the correct layout. The layout, your question should have introduction and conclusion. And analysis, you must break the question down to make sure that you understand the question. And synthesis, make sure that all your content is relevant in the essays. And originality, you must make sure that you provide relevant examples. This is how you must approach essays. Let's look at, for example, an example of an essay. Normally you are given an essay, and our essays, you've got what we call a preamble given in a box, and then you've got the 4 bullets. Those 4 bullets are basically your instructions or the questions. Let me read through the preamble. Conflict and grievances in the workplace may have a negative impact on business operations if not addressed in the workplace. Businesses must be able to identify the causes of conflict and advise team leaders on how to apply the criteria for successful team performance. They should find ways to deal with difficult people in the workplace. That is a preamble. It gives you an information as to what the essay should be based on. It's not a scenario, it's just a preamble. Here's the question. Write an essay on team performance and conflict management in which you address the following. 1. Outline the differences between conflict and grievance. 2. Explain the causes of conflict in the workplace. 3. Discuss 4 criteria for successful team performance. 4. Suggest ways in which business can deal with difficult employees in the workplace. Those are your 4 bullets. Those are your questions. It's important before you answer an essay that you come up with a mind map. Here is a mind map. You know that you'll have, for example, a paragraph on the differences between grievance and conflict, causes of conflict, another paragraph, criteria for successful teams, and also ways to deal with difficult employees. And you know that your essay is based on team performance and conflict management. And there's nothing stopping you from having your mind map in your script. You will not be given additional marks, but again, you will not be penalized for doing that. And it's important that you get the correct introduction and also the correct conclusion. For example, make sure that your introduction, you come up with introductory statements that link with the statements or that link with the questions. For example, let's look at the first introductory statement. Businesses should be able to deal with conflict and grievances as soon as they occur to avoid demotivating their employees. You see, this introductory statement, it links with the first bullet. Let's take the last but one introductory statement. Difficult employees could have a negative effect on team performance and productivity. You see, this statement, it's an introductory statement, but it links with the last bullet of your essay. So make sure that your introduction, you come up with introductory statements that link with the statements or that link with the questions or the bullets. You'll never get them wrong. The same applies to conclusion. With conclusion, make sure that your concluding statements, they are also linked with the questions or they are linked with the bullets as they've been asked in the question. For example, the first concluding statement may be an aggrieved employee should not be ignored as he or she can report the matter to the higher authorities, resulting in bad image of the business. This links with what? The first bullet of the question. Let's look at the third bullet. Team members must assess themselves continuously in terms of their contribution in the team so that set targets can be achieved. It also links with another statement or the bullet in the question. Management should apply proper people management skills in order to handle conflict, difficult employees in the workplace. It links with the last bullet or the last question in the essay. So even your conclusion, come up with concluding statements that link with the question. You will be on point to answer as expected. And then let's look at the breakdown of the question. For example, in this instance, the essay, your introduction would have been allocated 2 marks, difference between conflict and grievance 8 marks, conflict, cause of conflict 12 marks, criteria for successful teams 16 marks, ways in which business can deal with difficult employees 10 marks, and then conclusion 2 marks. Now, all these when you add, they will total 50 marks. But when we mark, that 50 will be reduced to a maximum of 32. When we do that, it is to your advantage, because the moment we reach a maximum of 32, we have reached the marks that we wanted. Then we add the marks for layout, which is your introduction and conclusion, your analysis, your synthesis, and your originality, which is 8 marks. Then we come to a total of 40. So it's pretty easy to get your marks in an essay. And you can even start answering your question paper with an essay, making sure that you answer correctly and you have made the correct choice of your essay. You answer accordingly. But remember, make sure that you don't spend more than 30 minutes on an essay. Make sure that even your handwriting is perfect. You write clearly, legibly, and you don't make it difficult for whoever is going to mark your work to read through your work. And lastly, because I hope you've been listening to my presentation, I've got a question for you. If you get it right, you stand a chance to win prizes like headband and water bottle. Here is the question, and this question is based on investment securities. Pearl invested 50,000 rands over 3 years at 10% compounded interest in a fixed deposit. That is the statement. Pearl invested 50,000 rands over 3 years at 10% compounded interest in a fixed deposit. Here is the question. Calculate the interest amount that Pearl will receive after 3 years. Show all calculations. I hope you get this question right. And then in conclusion, I want to wish you the best with your remaining subjects that you must still write, including Business Studies Paper 2. Let me leave you with this quotation by Anonymous. I quote, "Run when you can, walk if you have to, crawl if you must, just never give up." Close quote. So I've got no doubt you can't give up now. You are almost there. In a week's time, some of you'll be done with your exams. So hang in there, do your best. This is your metric. Make sure that at the end of your examination, you can look back and you can smile and you can be proud that you've done your best and you are simply waiting for your results. With those few words, I want to thank you and wish you well.